Hello, today is Sunday, October 25th. It is my grandmother's 90th birthday. Happy birthday, Gigi. And we were looking at Acts chapter 25 today. So it's very similar to what we've looked at before. Paul is in prison in Caesarea, still there. It said in the previous chapter he'd been there for 2 years. So he's in prison for a lengthy amount of time. And there's a new governor. Felix is gone, and Festus is now the new governor. And as Festus has come, he has tried to make a political play with the Jewish authorities and do something that they would like him to do in terms of Paul. They would like him transferred to Jerusalem, in which case they could then go to Jerusalem or go somewhere near. In the transfer, they would ambush and kill Paul. That was their plan. They plotted this again. So this is the second time this plot has come up. And then, so they asked Festus for that, but then Festus likes to examine Paul. And in the sort of trial they set, so Festus can learn about it, he doesn't really find that their complaints, and he testifies to this later when he's talking to King Agrippa, he doesn't really find that their charges against him are actual charges. They're just disagreements between them, and that's the judgment that he makes based on that. But then when King Agrippa and his sister who's also his wife, Bernice, come to town, and they are in the line of the Herods. So he's the king that is in charge of the Jewish people, and so in cooperation with the Roman authority, which is Festus. And because Festus is new, they came to greet him and welcome him. And they're there in Caesarea, and he says, well, why don't you come, King Agrippa, and hear what Paul has to say. And so he says, of course, yes, let's do it. He says, how about tomorrow? So they do it. And they brought Paul in, and the whole Jewish community was there. And but Festus makes testimony that he found that he had done nothing deserving of death. And then what Paul does is Paul makes his political move and says, I am appealing to the emperor. So neither one of these guys, it's a governor, not an emperor. So Paul makes his appeal as a Roman citizen to the emperor. So then he's going to have to be heard by the emperor. So that's going to delay things a little bit further, and he may have to be moved to Rome because of this. This is not stated in the chapter. It's just a reality. So just an idea of what's going on with Paul right now is there are 3 of the undisputed letters of Paul. Now, undisputed letters of Paul, guess what? Not all the letters that are attributed to Paul are necessarily ones that Paul wrote. Sorry, this is what it is. But scholars think that of the undisputeds, there are 3 that he wrote from prison. That's mentioned that he's reading from prison. Philippians, Colossians, and Philemon. So if you look at those books, you can see that Paul is writing as a prisoner. So we don't know if this is the time in which he's imprisoned, or if it's later than this, or if it's before this at some point. Remember, he was imprisoned in Philippi, and he was imprisoned in other places because they'd catch him and they'd put him in prison. So we don't know exactly where Paul was when he was writing these things, but when you do read those letters, you will see that he is writing from prison. So it could have been during this time that we read about in chapter 25. So at the very end of chapter 25, this is Festus talking, and he says, therefore I have brought him before all of you, and especially before you, King Agrippa. He's talking to all the Jewish authorities that are there, so that after we have examined him, I may have something to write, for it seems to me unreasonable to send a prisoner without indicating the charges against him. And he has to cross all his T's and dot all his I's before he sends this guy to the emperor. So that's what he's trying to do. So then in chapter 26, which is tomorrow, Paul will get a chance to have his say in this. It's sort of like an informal trial that they're having on the occasion of the visit of King Agrippa and his wife, who is his sister, Bernice. Have a great day.